Ladies, let's talk. Not about changing yourself for anyone, not about playing games, but about understanding your power, your emotional intelligence, your presence, and how to leave an impression that lingers long after you've left the room. There's a certain kind of woman who walks into a room and instantly shifts the energy. She doesn't need to speak loudly or wear something dramatic. Her presence does all the work. And that's what we're talking about here, being unforgettable. Not for anyone else's approval, but because you know your worth and you carry it like your favorite perfume. Subtle, yet impossible to ignore. Being unforgettable doesn't mean trying to be perfect. It doesn't mean you need to be the most beautiful person in the room or the loudest laugh at the table. It means being deeply, unapologetically yourself. People remember authenticity more than anything else. They remember how you made them feel. So when you show up grounded in who you are, when you bring that calm confidence, that kindness mixed with boundaries, that sparkle of playfulness paired with purpose, that's when you become the kind of person someone can't stop thinking about. Think about it. We live in a world of constant noise. Social media, instant gratification, endless scrolling. Attention spans are shorter than ever. So when someone meets you and you're not trying to impress, but instead you are impressed with your own life, your own joy, your own rhythm, now that's magnetic. When you're not begging for attention, but you're radiating something rare, people notice. He notices. You become the story that stands out from the feed, the memory that returns in the quiet moments. And this doesn't happen through force, it happens through presence. The way you listen, the way you speak from the heart, the way you hold eye contact just long enough to let someone feel seen, then gracefully pull away. It's in the way you laugh with your whole body, or the way you sit in silence with confidence, not discomfort. Presence is power. But here's the thing, presence isn't something you can fake. It comes from inner work, from knowing your value, your vision, your voice, from living a life that excites you. Because when you are lit up from the inside, when you're chasing things that make your soul feel alive, that glow is impossible to replicate. You want him to miss you? Don't try to fit into a mold of what you think he wants. Instead, become so deeply rooted in who you are that no one else can compete. Be the one who challenges him to think deeper, feel more, dream bigger. Be the kind of woman whose energy stays in the room long after she leaves, not because she said something shocking, but because she said something real. And remember, unforgettable doesn't mean perfect, it means human, vulnerable, raw. It means you can be graceful and clumsy, powerful and soft, strong and still healing, all at the same time. What makes you unforgettable is your willingness to be seen as you, not a curated version of yourself. So wear what makes you feel electric. Say what you mean. Move like the world is your runway. Not because you're trying to be watched, but because you're too busy being to notice who's watching. That's what makes people curious. That's what makes him look back and think there was something about her. He might not know what it is. He might not be able to explain it, but he'll feel it. He'll feel your presence long after the moment has passed. That's the kind of energy that can't be duplicated. That's what makes you unforgettable. And that's the first step to making him miss you, not by chasing, but by simply being. There's something incredibly powerful about mystery. In a world where everyone is constantly sharing everything, what they ate, where they went, who they're with, there's something wildly magnetic about a person who keeps a little bit to themselves. Someone who doesn't overshare, who doesn't explain every move, who leaves just enough unanswered for curiosity to bloom. That's where true allure lies. In not being a fully open book, but rather a beautiful novel with pages that you reveal slowly, intentionally. When you're mysterious, you give people something to wonder about. And let's be real, people crave what they don't fully understand. It's human nature. We're drawn to depth, to layers, to the spark of I want to know more. That's how someone begins to miss you. Not when they've seen everything and know all your moves, but when there are pieces of you still dancing in their mind, waiting to be discovered. Mystery isn't about being cold or distant. It's about being selective. It's about choosing who gets access to your thoughts, your past, your heart. It's about pacing the reveal of your soul, not hiding it, but protecting it. Because the truth is, not everyone deserves full access. And the moment you start honoring your inner world as sacred, the right people begin to lean in a little closer, hoping to understand the parts of you that aren't immediately visible. Have you ever noticed how the most fascinating people never feel the need to prove themselves? They are composed, calm, and just a little unpredictable. That unpredictability isn't chaotic, it's captivating. It's the space between what you show and what you don't that creates tension, interest, and yes, desire. You don't have to always be the loudest voice or the person constantly posting to prove you're living a good life. Sometimes simply pulling back and living fully without announcing it makes others sit up and take notice. Letting someone into your world should feel like a privilege, not an expectation. The mistake many people make is thinking that emotional intimacy has to happen quickly to be meaningful. But the truth is, when you reveal everything all at once, you take away the joy of discovery. You rush the magic. Relationships, connections, chemistry, they all thrive on a balance between knowing and not knowing, between familiarity and surprise. And here's the twist. When you let mystery guide you, it naturally creates emotional momentum. He begins to think about you more often. Why? Because you're not always available. You're not predictable. He doesn't know what's going through your mind every moment of the day. And that leaves room for imagination, room for him to miss you, to wonder where you are, who you're with, what's making you smile. That wondering becomes a kind of craving, a mental echo of your presence even in your absence. You can create that energy by simply being intentional. Share moments, not monologues. Reveal your thoughts like petals, slowly, beautifully, and on your terms. Don't feel the need to explain every decision, every feeling, every plan. Let silence speak for you sometimes. Let your actions write the story. Let the mystery live in the space between your words. The truth is, when someone thinks they know everything about you, they stop looking. They stop paying attention. But when they sense there's more to uncover, when they realize you're still growing, still becoming, still hiding wildflowers in your soul, they'll keep coming back, hoping to catch another glimpse. Right? So don't be afraid to hold some things back. Don't be afraid to be a little unpredictable. If he texts you, you don't need to reply in 3 seconds. If he asks about your weekend, you don't have to spill every detail. Let him feel that slight space. Let him earn more of you, one piece at a time. Mystery isn't playing games, it's playing your truth wisely. It's about not giving away your magic too fast. It's about trusting that the right person won't need a roadmap to appreciate you. They'll be intrigued by the journey itself. And in that quiet, alluring, intentional space you created, he'll find himself thinking about you more often than he expected. Wondering about you, missing you, not because you disappeared, but because you didn't give it all away. And that, right there, is the power of mystery. There's something undeniably powerful about a person who isn't always available. Not because they're playing games, but because they genuinely have a full life. One that doesn't pause or pivot just because someone calls, texts, or shows up with interest. Availability can be a beautiful thing, but when it becomes constant, expected, or even automatic, it loses its spark. It starts to feel less like affection and more like obligation. And let's be honest, no one misses something they're always sure of. When you're always accessible, you train others to take your presence for granted. It's not intentional, but it happens. The texts become routine, the calls are assumed, the meetups feel more like habits than moments of real connection, and the emotional weight of your presence begins to fade. Not because you're not valuable, but because you've stopped being a mystery, a surprise, a gift. You've become expected. So what happens when you're not always available? You create space for longing, for curiosity, for appreciation. Suddenly your energy feels more exclusive, your time feels sacred. People start to realize that being with you isn't just something that happens, it's something that matters. And here's the important part. Not being available doesn't mean being distant, rude, or unkind. It means being intentional. It means putting your time and energy into the things that fill you up, that light you up, that remind you of who you are, outside of any relationship or romantic attention. It's about showing the world and him that you have your own rhythm, your own pace, your own joy. Maybe you've got a passion you're chasing, a book you're reading, a project you're building, a brunch with friends. Or maybe you're just resting, recharging, taking care of your soul. All of that is valid. All of that is powerful. You don't owe your constant availability to anyone just to be liked, loved, or remembered. You're not an open-door convenience store. You're a limited edition. And your time, it should feel like luxury. When he knows that you're not always one call away, that you might be busy living, growing, laughing, healing, he starts to value every interaction more deeply. The moments you do give become rare, they become memorable, and suddenly you're not just another person in his world, you're the person whose presence feels different, special, worth waiting for. And let's not ignore the internal transformation that happens here too. When you stop being constantly available, you begin to reconnect with yourself. You stop waiting by the phone. You stop over-analyzing his messages. You stop reshaping your schedule around someone else's attention. And you start showing up for you, for your joy, for your peace, for your vision. And that's where true confidence is born, not from being chosen, but from choosing yourself first. This doesn't mean you play hard to get. That's not the point. You're not trying to manipulate anyone's attention. You're simply remembering your value and treating your time like the treasure it is. When you say yes, it means something. When you respond, it carries intention. When you show up, it's not because you're bored or lonely. It's because you want to be there. And that energy, that authenticity, it's magnetic. If someone truly values you, they will respect your space. They will be intrigued, not irritated, by the fact that you have a life. They'll want to be part of your world, not expect to become the center of it. Because the right kind of connection thrives in balance, in mutual respect, in effort that isn't demanded but inspired. So the next time you feel that pressure to always say yes, to always be available, pause. Ask yourself, is this serving me? Is this feeding my soul? Is this a moment I want to give my energy to? Or am I just afraid that if I don't, I'll be forgotten? You won't be forgotten. You'll be remembered more vividly, more longingly, more meaningfully when you show up from a place of choice, not desperation. Let your absence be felt as much as your presence. Let him wonder where you are, what you're doing, and why he can't stop thinking about you. Not because you're playing a role, but because you're living a life that doesn't pause for anyone. That is the essence of real power. And it's the kind of power that doesn't just make someone miss you. It makes them realize they were lucky to have even a moment of your time. There's a certain kind of magic that happens when you connect with someone on a deep emotional level. When a conversation leaves someone thinking long after it ends. When you say something that doesn't just pass through their ears but stays in their heart. That's emotional connection. It's real, it's rare, and it's unforgettable. But what most people forget is this. Connection alone isn't enough to make someone miss you. You need space to let that connection breathe, to let it grow, to let it echo. In a world where everything moves fast, texts fly back and forth, feelings are confessed within days, and talking stages turn into emotional marathons overnight, it's easy to forget that depth takes time. And more importantly, depth needs room. When you keep showing up, constantly messaging, always initiating, you don't give the other person time to feel your absence, to wonder, to reflect. You end up filling every silence with words and every pause with noise, and that emotional connection you work so beautifully to build, it starts to lose its weight. That's why balance is everything. Build the emotional bond, but don't rush to fill every moment with attention. Let there be space between your interactions. Let silence do some of the talking. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do after an intimate moment or vulnerable conversation is to step back, not as a test, but as a trust exercise. Trust that the moment was meaningful enough to linger. Trust that your presence was impactful enough to echo even when you're not around. Think of it like music. The notes matter, yes, but so does the space between them. Without that space, it's just noise. Without that pause, there's no rhythm. Emotional connection works the same way. You can pour your heart into someone, share your thoughts, your dreams, your vulnerabilities. But then you need to let that moment land. You need to let them sit with it, replay it, miss it. And the most beautiful part? That space doesn't mean detachment. It's not cold or distant. It's actually an act of confidence. It's the quiet knowing that you don't need to constantly remind someone of your worth. You've already shown it. You've already given them something real to remember. You don't need to overextend, explain, or prove anything. You simply are, and that's enough. When someone feels seen, heard, and emotionally understood by you, they don't forget it. It's not the constant contact they remember. It's the moment you truly looked at them and said something that hit their soul. And when you step away after a moment like that, it creates a powerful shift. It gives them time to miss that connection, to miss you. This is where real emotional attraction begins. Not in the daily good morning texts, not in the over availability, but in the tension between connection and space, between closeness and distance, between presence and pause. But let's be clear, giving space doesn't mean playing hot and cold. It doesn't mean ghosting or withdrawing as punishment. It means honoring your own rhythm, taking care of your own energy, letting them miss you while you keep growing, evolving, doing your thing. Because when you don't center your life around someone else's attention, they feel the shift. They feel the energy that says, I like you, but I don't need you to feel whole. And that's magnetic. You don't have to chase connection to keep it alive. If it's real, it will find its way back to you, often stronger, deeper, more rooted than before. Because the truth is, emotional connection without space can suffocate. But emotional connection paired with space, that's the kind of bond that lingers, that grows in silence, that deepens when you least expect it. So speak your truth, be vulnerable, laugh deeply, share parts of yourself that matter. Let someone feel who you really are, and then pull back, not as a tactic, but as a declaration of self-trust. Let them carry that moment with them. Let them miss the feeling of being known by you. Let them realize how rare it is to connect with someone like you. Because when you create emotional intimacy and then allow for distance, you're not losing connection. You're planting it. And in that quiet space between now and the next time, you're letting it bloom. There's nothing more magnetic than a person who's genuinely lit up from the inside. Someone who walks into a room and doesn't need validation to feel alive because they're already deeply engaged with their own life. That kind of energy, the kind that says, I am whole, I am growing, I am enough, is incredibly rare. And when you embody it, people don't just notice you, they remember you, they want to be around you. And yes, they miss you when you're not there. Living fully means choosing yourself unapologetically. It means waking up with purpose, doing the things that excite you, scare you, stretch you. It means building a life that doesn't revolve around being seen, but around feeling alive. You don't wait around for someone to call or text. You don't put your passions on pause to stay available. You create a world so rich, so exciting, so yours, that anyone who enters it knows they've stepped into something special. And confidence? It's not loud, it's not arrogant, it's quiet, steady, and powerful. It's the way you carry yourself when no one's watching. The way you speak kindly to yourself when things don't go as planned. The way you set boundaries, say no, and walk away from anything that doesn't serve your peace. That kind of self-respect, that kind of emotional grounding draws people in far more than charm or beauty ever could. You don't need to be perfect to be confident. You just need to be real. Own your flaws, your growth, your evolving self. When you show up fully as you are, you become a mirror. You remind people what it looks like to live with integrity, passion, and self-love. And in a world full of performance, that kind of authenticity is a breath of fresh air. What's wild is this. The more you focus on your own journey, the more people start to notice. When you stop chasing and start creating joy, memories, movement, purpose, you naturally become someone who stands out. Why? Because you're not dependent on someone else for excitement. You are the excitement. You're not seeking meaning in someone else's life story. You're writing your own, and it's a page turner. And the people who cross your path, they feel that. They feel that you're not desperate for attention. You're not begging to be chosen. You've already chosen yourself. So when you give them your time, your energy, your laughter, it feels like a gift, not a demand. It feels intentional. And that's what leaves a mark. When he sees you thriving, living, laughing, growing, without waiting for his approval, that's when he starts to miss you. Not because you're trying to make him, but because he realizes you're not just someone to talk to. You're someone with her own orbit. And suddenly, being near you feels like being part of something rare, something alive. So go build your life. Take the trips. Say yes to new things. Go for the career, the passion project, the early morning run, the late night dream session. Surround yourself with people who uplift you, challenge you, inspire you. Keep your standards high. And love yourself through the ups and downs. Because confidence isn't about pretending you've got it all figured out. It's about trusting that you'll keep going no matter what. Don't wait to be chosen to start living. The right person will admire your independence. They'll feel the strength of your self-worth in every interaction. They'll miss your presence, not because you tried to impress them, but because you didn't need to. You just were. fully, beautifully, and confidently yourself. This isn't about ego, it's about embodiment. It's about knowing that your presence is powerful and your life is already full, with or without someone to share it with. And when someone does step in, it won't be to complete you. It'll be to complement you. So keep living loudly, softly, boldly, bravely. Keep falling in love with your own path. That's how you become the kind of person someone can forget. Not because you tried to be unforgettable, but because you were too busy being free. Sometimes the most powerful way to make someone miss you isn't through direct words or constant attention. It's through quiet, subtle echoes of shared moments. A scent, a song, a phrase you once said, a little detail that reappears just when they thought they'd moved on. That's nostalgia, and it's one of the most potent emotional triggers we have. It slips under defenses, it bypasses logic, it goes straight to the heart. You don't have to be physically present to remain emotionally unforgettable. What you need is impact. Moments that linger, the kind that turn ordinary time spent together into small memories that live rent-free in someone's mind. And those memories, when stirred just right, can make a person feel your absence in a way that words never could. We often underestimate the power of subtle reminders. A favorite coffee order you introduced him to, a playlist you made together, a photo of a place you both loved. When he comes across these things again, without you even trying, it's like your energy walks back into the room. Not loudly, not forcefully, but softly, beautifully. It reminds him of the way you made him feel. Safe, inspired, excited, seen. And once someone remembers how you made them feel, they start to miss the person who gave them that feeling. This isn't about manipulation. It's about emotional imprint. It's about being intentional in how you show up so that when you're not around, your absence feels meaningful. You can create these emotional anchors in so many ways. It's the inside jokes, the special spots, the way you'd always say something just before hanging up. These little rituals, these tiny familiar things, they become comfort, and when comfort leaves, people notice. There's something incredibly powerful about knowing that you can live in someone's memory without being in their life every single day. It means you left behind more than just conversation, you left behind connection. Real, emotional, sensory connection. And that's what nostalgia plays with. It tugs gently at the heart when the world feels quiet. It brings your face to mind when a certain lyric plays. It reminds him of the way you used to look at him, even when he's surrounded by others. And here's the secret. You don't even have to try too hard. The best kind of nostalgia is effortless. It's built on authenticity. It's not about flooding his feed or sending remember when texts. It's about planting seeds in real time and letting them bloom later. Be fully present when you're with him. Be unforgettable in the most human ways. Laugh from your soul. Speak your truth. Share stories only you can tell. Be a moment that he couldn't replicate with anyone else, even if he tried. Then step back. Live your life. Let time and silence do their work. Because nostalgia doesn't need reminders every day. It lives in the quiet. It grows in the gaps. It shows up uninvited. Like when he passes by that bookstore you dragged him into, or hears that song you couldn't stop singing in the car. That's when the missing begins. That's when he feels the space you left behind. And what's beautiful about this kind of connection is that it doesn't demand, it doesn't chase, it doesn't beg to be remembered, it just is. It exists in the background like a soft echo, like the scent of perfume on a hoodie he didn't even realize still smelled like you, like that phrase you always said that pops into his head at the most unexpected moment. So trust the quiet power of your presence. Trust that the way you laugh, the way you love, the way you show up with intention, those things leave a mark. You don't need to remind anyone of your value. You just need to live in a way that makes your absence felt in the most beautiful and subtle ways. That's the art of being unforgettable. That's the kind of energy that lingers long after the moment ends. And when it's wrapped in nostalgia, warm, familiar, irreplaceable, it creates the kind of longing that words alone could never match. Not because you tried to be missed, but because you lived in a way that couldn't be easily replaced.